welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are going to talk about a really difficult topic that we all need to be aware of. It's a national issue. We have a problem with opioid addiction and overdose in this country. And here in Hampton, we are not immune to it. The police chief recently told City Council that we have lost more people to opioid overdoses than we have to gun violence in the last year or two. So here to talk about what the problem is and what we can do is Detective Tim Curtis from the police. Welcome.
Welcome, thank you.
This is a little bit of a wake-up call, I think, because people who haven't been touched by this epidemic really don't know about it, don't connect with it, but it is out there.
Yes, it is.
You have studied drug addiction, drug crimes, the influences of drugs in our society. What have you seen over your career, and how does this compare to previous cycles of drug abuse?
Well, I could say I've been working narcotics for like 7 years now. We started really seeing a huge problem with the heroin and the opiates starting to take hold about 3 years ago, late 2014, early 2015. Prior to that, about 10 years ago, heroin wasn't as forefront. It was more the cocaine, the crack cocaine, and has now changed from your cocaine to the heroin. And the heroin affects every aspect of society here in Hampton. There's not anybody not immune to it.
It's different, I think, in that probably previous stereotypes weren't true, but you would think of a drug abuser who started previously with smaller drugs and then sort of graduated to heroin. And in this instance, they're really oftentimes starting with legal painkillers and becoming addicted to that, and then moving to heroin because it's cheaper or they can get it, whereas the doctor has not continued to refill that prescription.
That is correct. Over the last probably year and a half, 2 years, I've interviewed a couple hundred different people that have for heroin, and a lot of them they started off, they got legally prescribed prescription pills from an injury. Unfortunately, they became addicted to them. Their doctors eventually cut them off. And then for a while there, they were able to get their prescription pills illegally buying them on the street. But what we've seen over the last year or so, prescription pills are a lot harder to find on the street.
The demand is huge, I guess.
Yes, it is. And what you're finding is that they eventually switched over to heroin because heroin is cheaper, it's easier to get, and prescription pills are very expensive on the street.
So, what do you do in the police department to try to stem this? You work with community partners?
Yes, we do. About a year and a half ago, the Hampton Police Division partnered with the Centera Careplex and actually the Hampton Newport Community Services Board. We started to come together and meet monthly to kind of for all aspects to work on the problem that everybody was starting to see, that everybody was seeing. We're seeing it because we're getting the overdoses complaints. We're seeing a lot more the heroin on traffic stops or just heroin-related arrests. The Careplex is seeing a lot more overdoses or people coming in for withdrawals, and obviously community service board, we're seeing more people coming in trying to get help. So we started meeting together, try to figure out what resources we have, what resources we could pull together to try to attack the problem or from different approaches. And what we've learned over the last year and a half is that there's a lot of other agencies in this area that also provide services that we were unaware of. And that's kind of where we are now. We're working on who has services to provide, what other areas outside of the Commonwealth of Virginia, what programs they've tried, and we're trying to implement them here to see if they would work here.
It's important that we all learn from communities where this maybe started a few years sooner, or that have experience, and that we all work together to get people help. And your role, traditional role as the police department, your role is also to get people help, but to try to stop the flow of these illegal drugs.
Yes, we do, and we do that obviously individuals that we arrest or other individuals that we just go interview that have this problem. We try to gain information from them that we can either use or we can pass off to other agencies, whether they're state agencies, local, or
the
federal
yeah,
agencies as
yeah.
well. And we all partner together. We all work very well with each other.
Because it may not be coming from Hampton.
No.
It's going to cross the borders, and all of Hampton Roads has to work together to try to, stem this.
Yes, it is, and there's a lot of information sharing from all the, from all the jurisdictions here on the peninsula as well as on the south side. We all try to share information as well because there's really, when it comes to this, there's no borders between the jurisdictions.
And so, heroin is something we've all heard of. We know it's intensely addictive. We know that it's not, it's a real problem. But what we're hearing now is about fentanyl. And what is that? How is it alike? How is it different? That is this new kind of scary thing out there.
Okay. Obviously, fentanyl is it's an opiate painkiller. It's a prescription, only by prescription. Usually, it was, from what we have told and have learned, it was really only really prescribed for cancer patients during and immediately after surgeries. So it was a very limited community that could get it, and we'd see it every once in a while. But obviously now it's on the forefront of everything. It's like 100 times or stronger than heroin. It's very, very addictive. It only takes a very small amount of it that can cause you to overdose and potentially die from it.
And, not in Hampton necessarily, but nationally, we've heard these cases of, a 10-year-old boy in Baltimore who sort of managed to touch it or ingest it somewhere, somehow, and nurses or police officers who have accidentally, it is a really very, very potent thing. And people who are using illegal drugs don't necessarily know that they're getting it or how much of it they're getting. And
no, your typical users, they're not going to know they're assuming they're purchasing heroin. They're not going to know what's in it. And a lot of times your lower level drug dealers, they're not going to know exactly what they're selling either. You mentioned the fentanyl, but we're also starting to see a lot of the analogues of fentanyl as well.
What does that mean, analogues? Derivations?
Yeah,
it's
a variation of fentanyl. The one that we had a cart fentanyl hit in the city of Hampton last year. We were the second locality in the Commonwealth of Virginia to have it. It showed up a couple months after they had a really big problem with it in Ohio. The instance where we have that individual survived, we found out obviously a couple months afterwards when we got the substance back from the state lab to tell us what it was. But we've also seen two individuals that have passed away from their causes of death, that they have also had different variations of fentanyl analogs in their system when they passed away.
This is, kind of overwhelmingly scary for average adults. And obviously, the police department is doing what it can. The fire EMS people are treating people. We're working in partnerships, recommending rehab, counseling, trying to help people. But is there anything the average citizen can do? Is there a role for us? How do we know if our child or our parent or our neighbor is having a problem with opioids? Is there something we should look for or do?
Obviously, the biggest thing for anybody that actually has an opiate type prescription in their house, they need to keep an eye on it, keep it locked up, keep it away from either other family members or anybody that comes over. Don't leave it where someone can have access to it. We tend to see that's a lot of it. The younger people or whatever, when they start with the prescription pills, they're taking them from other family members, or they're at a friend's house and they're taking them from their friend's parents' medicine cabinets because they're not paying attention.
So lock it up, get rid of it. If it's from a 2-year-old surgery, don't keep it around.
No, and the best thing to do is to get rid of it. Obviously, the DA does their drug take back at least twice a year, which we partner with. That's one of the best places to do it. Hampton Health Department provided us drug disposal kits a few months ago. The police department has them. They're free of charge. We provide some to Centera Careplex. They're very easy. It's a little packet. It has charcoal in it. You put water in it. You pour your pills in it. You seal it, and you throw in your trash.
So it's a safe way to dispose of it.
It's a
You
safe way to
shouldn't flush
dispose
them.
of-
You're putting it into the Hampton Roads water, sanitation.
No.
You don't want to do that.
No, flushing is not recommended.
Right. So dispose of them safely.
Correct. The other thing is just to kind of pay attention, especially for the parents that think their children are. Heroin used to be, and the most common was you're going to see track marks. Someone's using a syringe. It's not so much the case now. You still see a lot of syringe use, but also they snort the heroin. Parents just need to pay attention what their kids have, or kids need to pay attention what their parents have in the house as well. Watch for, if the parents or suspect their kids, start paying attention to stuff missing from the house. That is another thing that we have seen. The parents have told us is that
Stealing to buy drugs.
that their children are starting to either take their credit cards, their ATM cards, or actually take items out of the house to pawn them so that way they can purchase their drugs.
And what do you do if you're a parent? It's a tough bind. You don't want to enable, but you don't want to cast them out onto the streets exactly.
Correct. And the few parents I've talked to for their kids, that's a conversation we have. Almost like we need to try tough love. It's very hard for the parents to do it. They don't want to do it. They don't want to put them out. They want to get them the help. So the best thing we can do is, from all these partnerships that we have, is we provide them a list of different agencies that are in this area that they can try to go to get their child help. But that person needs to want help in order for the help to work.
Right. They have to sort of get to a worse place before they're ready. One of the myths I think out there about addiction is that it's a personal failing that someone becomes addicted. And the studies have shown that's not really true. It is, heroin, opioids are addictive to everyone. Maybe some people get addicted quicker than others, but it is a physical addiction. It does not mean I am a weak person. That's a tough thing to get across to folks.
Yes, it is, and I've talked to so many people, and that's some of them see themselves as failures over it, but it's try to explain to them that they're not, and that there's help out there for them if they want it. We do have the few that they look at it as, I like this. They like what it does.
That's why they need that high. They need that feeling. Their body craves it, and so they go back for more until they get to the point where it's ruined their lives, or they've been, fortunately, there is this sort of antidote for reversing overdoses that used to be fatal. But what we're seeing, of course, is that the EMTs are rescuing people over and over again because it is so potent out there, because people don't know what they have, and because in New York City, they're seeing it now, fentanyl mixed in with other drugs. So people maybe with heroin kind of know they're going for an opioid, but people who use other drugs now are being exposed and addicted before they even realize what they've taken, and that risk of overdose is so strong.
Yes, it is. And for here in Hampton, they have, I know the Community Services Board, they offer the Revive training for the layperson. If you know you have a family member that's addicted to it, you can go contact the CSB, go through their class, and you can get your Narcan.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
So you can have it at home for that incidents where that person might overdose. Is where the police department now carries it. We've had it since November of last year. We partnered with the Centera Careplex. They provide between Centera Careplex personnel. There's the police department and the fire department. There's personnel that are trained so they can teach the class. So we actually have there's officers on the road every day that carry it. So we have it for those cases that we arrive on scene prior to the fire department getting there, so we can administer.
Yeah, because you guys are there
it.
first a lot.
Correct.
Okay. Well, is there anything I've forgotten to ask you that you want to add before we close?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And thank you for watching. I know this is not an easy topic. It is not fun to confront one of the big crises in the country. And this is not a Hampton problem alone, but to make sure that you are aware and that you understand and that you know what to look for and that you understand what our community resources are doing, what our police department is doing in partnership with other law enforcement agencies to crack down on the people who are selling and supplying these illegal drugs, what our hospital and our health resources and our EMTs are doing to help save people, and our community partners that are dealing with helping people through this addiction and to become, to get out on the other side. So thank you so much for listening to this and helping us look at this problem. Thanks for watching.